right? Building a real executive management team, which I only started to do about 5 years before I sold the company, was important for Plan A, but was also very attractive to the third-party buyer in Plan B. And of course, it would have been essential in Plan C. And the cash management practices that I put in place so that I could be an absentee owner and still get paid. It was an S corporation, by the way. So in order to still get paid, the cash management procedure produced a very excellent balance sheet that 2 banks were vying to give us a loan for what is normally considered a risky loan, a management buyer kind of thing. So this is where, when you look at your company as a buyer is going to look at it, this is where your strategic plan and your exit strategy come together. In my experience, most strategic plans focus on the top line. How are we going to get new business and grow the top line? And obviously that's very important. Whereas your exit strategy is, how am I going to build a business that's going to survive? A whole new, different range of subjects. You need both of them in your exit strategy. Once you have an exit strategy, the next thing to do is to take action to execute the strategy and to build value. We worked with a business owner that had a very sellable business, and one of the clearest financial plans that I've ever seen in a business owner. When he sold his company, he wanted to, a third-party sale was his exit strategy. When he sold the company, he wanted to move to Arizona, build a house. He had some personal and corporate debt that he wanted to pay off. He wanted $20,000 a month after taxes, guaranteed for life for him and his wife. And he had some charitable things he wanted to do in a travel fund. And his financial advisor told him that in order to do all those, he needed to sell this company for $15 million or more after taxes. With the customer mix that he had and the service offerings, the multiples for his company were between 0.6 and 0.8 times revenue and 5 or 7 times EBITDA. So he needed a company that was between 20 and 25 million in revenue and between 2 and 2.5 million in EBITDA. Kind of thing. So he came to us and he said, I already have a strategic plan to grow the company. He says, but how do I get a 0.8 multiplier instead of a 0.6 multiplier? His 0.8 last time I looked was 1/3 more than 0.6. That's a whole lot of money. So we looked at his company using the 17 factors that create value in the eyes of the buyer, which is an appendix in the back of the book. And I do like to push the book, but if you don't want to do the book, it's also on the website 57mistakes.com. You can download 17 factors that determine value in the eyes of the buyer. For this company, 4 of them, he was better than market. 10 was at market, and he had 3 weaknesses. His weaknesses, not an unusual one, we've actually already talked about it, was his management team. His management team, like my early management team, were project managers. They weren't executive managers. You ask their management team what annual revenue is. They didn't know what the annual revenue of the company is. So that's not a real executive. So we helped him in that area. His second one, he had a great track record for winning recompetes. You know, continuing business with his old customers, but had no system, no sales system to attract new customers, kind of thing. We called it the whack-a-mole approach. Right? You know whack-a-mole on the boardwalk there? Anything that popped up, they went after. There was no rhyme or reason for what their new business development strategy was. And the third shortfall is he had no budget whatsoever. Which, of course, the natural consequence of not having a budget is his profits from year to year were erratic. He'd have a huge profit one year and lose money the next. He had no way of predicting what revenue was going to be next year. So we worked with him for about 20 months it took to correct those 3, and also to amplify the strengths to make him look attractive. And then we referred him to an investment banker, and his company was sold in about 6 months for a 0.85 multiplier, which gave him about $1 million more than his financial plan. So again, looking at your company as a buyer looks at it is where you find things that you need to put into your strategic plan. The number one thing, or at least one of the most important things that determines the value of your company in the buyer's eyes is your customer base and contract base. Most small business owners work 24/7, 365 to grow their company, to get new business, you know, to be at a cocktail party and start talking business. It used to drive my wife crazy. That kind of thing. But even after the company gets to be substantial, that survival mentality persists. And we go after everything. When I started my company in 1984, I had 2 subcontracts for government services work, both of which were my personal services. The name of my firm was RGS Associates, but there were no associates. Just me. So my first challenge actually was to change a one-man consultancy into a real business. I did that by gaining the confidence of my customers. They were government customers. I was helping them get money in the Reagan defense build-up again. There was a lot of money we had, and then help them deliver. And pretty soon they were asking me to do things, more things than I had time to do. They were asking me to do things that I didn't know how to do. Right? And they were asking things, quite frankly, that were way below what my hourly rate was. All of those were good reasons to hire new employees, which I did. So it took about 4 or 5 years, and I was able to transform those personal relationships into set-aside contracts in the government sector, small business set-asides. Once we had a couple, it was easy to get more set-asides in another business. Now I'm talking about the dot-com era, right? And we got the bright idea that we were going to go do commercial work. So we diversified into commercial work. We did state and local government work. DC government was one of my customers, the only customer in my entire career that never paid their bill. Only one.
That can't be true.
We worked for the office of the mayor too, but when the mayor switched from Barry to Williams. In any case, there was 1 year we had $7 million in annual revenue from 35 clients. So you do the math on that. We were doing an average of $200,000 per client. But we were in an industry where $1 million contracts are common.